Welcome to Marketplace Tech Bytes. It's our weekly review of some of the big stories happening across the industry. I'm Megan McCarty-Carino. This week, is the AI bubble about to pop? Olympians are highlighting some of their mental health issues on social media. And Google pulled an AI Olympics ad amid some backlash. I'm joined by our regular contributor, Christina Farr. She's the author of the health tech newsletter, Second Opinion. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me, Megan.
And as always, we're going to kick off with our Byte of the week. It's a number that tells us a little something about the week that was in the tech industry. Christina, what is your number?
So my number is much more about the media industry this week, and it is 1.25 billion, which is the amount that NBC Universal said it will likely surpass in Olympics-related ad spend. Just massive.
Wow. I do feel like this Olympics has been vibing. Like people are so into it. I mean, I know it's the Olympics, but I don't know. This one feels different.
It's true. And I was reading back over the numbers, and it seems like from an advertising perspective, there's always big numbers going into ads. But this particular Olympics just seems to be breaking all the records in terms of viewerships. And like you said, it's vibing. Everybody's watching it for some reason this year. It's just, and maybe it's just because we need that optimism and excitement and to see humans achieve their peak potential. But yeah, absolutely. Everybody I know is watching it.
Well, we'll get more into the Olympics a little bit later, but I want to talk about the number I brought, which was 2.5 trillion. That was NVIDIA's market cap this morning when I checked. Obviously a big number, but it's about $500 billion off where it was maybe just, like a week or two ago, which brings us to kind of the big story of the week, which is the market sell-off and what it is telling us. Obviously, there have been some kind of proximate things happening, worse than expected jobs report on Friday, some global jitters that we saw playing out. But this has a lot of folks kind of saying the B word. Does this look like the beginning of the AI bubble starting to burst? Explain the case for this.
I've been thinking about this for a while. I'll be real with you, Megan. It's been on my mind, and I think we are looking at a bubble. There's a lot of downsides to AI that we don't really talk about. One of them is just the amount of energy that it takes to power generative AI. I've been reading just some studies on this, and it's potentially going to move us into quantum computing before we know it, because we just don't have enough water to be able to power some of these models and the development of these models. It just takes so much in terms of raw compute. And I think the other big problem is the lack of meaningful use cases. So yes, chatbots are helpful, and we've seen across sectors, including healthcare, where I spend most of my time, that things like being able to summarize notes is really important for doctors. But is it worth trillions of dollars? And is it worth the amount of investment that technology companies are putting into AI? And I think those are the two big questions that people are asking, that maybe this is a space that's overvalued. And possibly it's overvalued for the next 1 to 3 years and maybe not the next 10. But in the near future, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more and more talk of the bubble popping.
Yeah, and of course, this has folks, kind of hearing echoes of the .com boom and bust. Does that seem like an appropriate comparison?
I'm just reminded of, when I used to work in journalism, people telling me that blockchain was going to solve all of our problems. And then there was a period when Web3 was going to be the savior of everything. And now it seems like it's AI. So I think sometimes we just jump on these trends and we just describe them as the panacea. And then, it's like the classic Gartner hype cycle. Eventually, it all comes toppling down. So maybe if we just go in with a bit more skepticism or even realism, and we say, it's going to be useful in some ways, and there are going to be downsides and real challenges, then we wouldn't have that kind of escalating moment of pop, and then the kind of what follows, which is inevitably this big kind of drop off of expectations. So I just wish that we would sort of come in with a little bit more realism to begin with.
Right. I mean, there are such high expectations for how much, profits some of these companies are going to be able to generate. As of yet, not really, not a clear picture of how that's going to happen. Expectations about how much sort of economic productivity is going to be gained through the use of these tools, which would power, GDP growth to, unprecedented levels. All of this is extremely speculative at this time. Uh, does this seem like, just kind of a correction or the start of something more serious to you?
I think it's the start of something more serious in the sense that we are going to be asking questions around, what is this technology for? What are the real downsides to it from an environmental perspective, from a loss of jobs perspective? What is it doing that is going to potentially make human beings less creative? And I think that is a very real problem. I just wrote a book, and I tried to use AI in the process of writing my book for things like just summarizing my notes. But honestly, I found that it got in my way, and that I was better off on my own for a wide variety of reasons. And I think people are starting to have some of those experiences after the initial kind of, first moments that we all used GPT, where we just were astonished and astounded by what this technology could do. I think now people are starting to say, well, actually, the writing's not that great, and the art that's being created is kind of off and kind of looks a little bit surrealist. And I think increasingly we're starting to say, again, what is this really for, and what are we giving up in the process of moving everything right now in the direction of AI?
We want to get back to the Olympics, to the good vibes of the Olympics, but also some of the tougher aspects of the Olympics. Of course, this is not the first Olympics where mental health has kind of been in the foreground. I think that the Tokyo Olympics were, a tough one for everyone. Families were not there. It was during kind of the midst of COVID. Of course, the greatest gymnast of all time, Simone Biles, dropped out at that Olympics. But this Olympics, we are sort of seeing a lot of athletes, taking to social media to discuss mental health in athletics. What are some of the things that you're tracking? This is obviously, an area of tech that you're very clued in on.
I think this is huge from just a mental health awareness perspective. It's amazing to me how much you're seeing some of these athletes say the mental resilience is just as important for them as the physical preparation and training that goes into it. And you're seeing it across, not just gymnastics, where I think Simone Biles was really the one credited with raising mental health as an issue, and she herself has acknowledged how she's experienced mental health challenges and has needed time away. But you're seeing it across so many different areas as well, in swim, and it's you're seeing these athletes, I think, as well, just bring more of themselves and their own personal lives to this, and kind of share more of it on social media as well. So we're sort of allowing them to, be real people in the process, which has been really lovely to see. And then the downsides obviously have been the bullying, and we hold these folks to just impossible standards, and there is certainly immense pressure as well. But I've seen some real signs of just growing acceptance and reduced stigma around mental health, and I think the Olympics has done a lot to further the cause.
Right. There's kind of the cultural aspect of this. And then we do see a business financial aspect, particularly in tech. I mean, what kinds of investments are being made in this space?
In mental health, it's massive investments. It's growing, to the level of billions a year being invested in mental health. And I think the reason for that was really what, got fueled by COVID, where increasingly we were able to take our therapy sessions from home, we were able to do it online, and a bunch of studies came out showing that People who do therapy online versus in person, there's not that much difference in terms of outcomes.
Hmm.
This is the one area of healthcare where we were able to really find that. In fact, there are some reasons why it's even better to do it online, because a therapist really gets a sense of your home environment. They can ask you to walk around your home and expose yourself to certain triggers in your own environment. People can be more open and honest when they're at home versus in someone's office. So that's a big reason why we saw much more investment pouring into the space. Not to mention, we just simply do not have enough therapists right now to meet the demand. So the idea is that we can do more online and potentially bring AI into the picture so that we can scale more of the therapists that we do have to be able to see more and more people without themselves burning out.
So coming full circle and bringing all our topics together, AI and the Olympics, there was an ad that I was seeing so much of early on, a Google ad that was depicting a father using Gemini, their large language model, to write a letter to the track star Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. This ad proved to be a bit controversial and was pulled. What went on there?
So Gemini, help my daughter write a letter telling Sydney how inspiring she is. And be sure to mention that my daughter plans on breaking her world record one day. She says, sorry, not sorry.
Kind of sweet, kind of creepy though.
Yeah, I watched it myself and I was taken back to being a little girl and just learning how to write and having a pen pal and just those early childhood experiences of really having to put pen to paper and the errors that you make, the mistakes, but then you learn, you evolve. And I think there was something about that particular ad that really devalued that magical part of our childhoods that we all remember. And I think in general, people react sometimes when it feels like tech companies don't put enough kind of credence around the value of a humanities education and what you get out of just the process of writing and putting yourself out there. I don't know if you look fondly upon those moments in your life, Megan, but that was where my mind really went when I watched the ad.
Yeah, this whole kind of controversy reminded me of a similar one that Apple had over an iPad ad that it put out that it also had to quickly pull because people responded to it very negatively. Let's see the clip.
All the things you do give me a reason to build my world around you. Come and follow rainbows.
So yeah, so basically the theme was, all of these kind of human artistic, remnants from the real world getting crushed into the iPad. And I think it just sort of raises questions about the degree to which tech companies are fully kind of processing how the normal public interacts with the tech and, that there seem to be some blind spots.
Absolutely. And I'm personally of the belief that, we're never going to create the next Shakespeare using AI. I'm actually long human beings, even with the dawning of this incredible new technology. There are simply things that are wonderful about being human, including art and writing and reading and just there's so much, there's thousands of years of human history that have just produced some of these great works that I think are sort of being visualized in this way of just being crushed into oblivion. And there's something very, very sad about that. I almost wonder if a better way to brand this would be that this technology just arms us to be the most creative versions of ourselves and gives us the time back to be able to pursue things like painting again and pottery again, versus that it is crushing those things. So, I'd love to see more of that from some of these tech companies as they design the next generation of these ads.
All right, we will hold our breath for that. Thanks, Christina. That's Christina Farr, the author of the health tech newsletter, Second Opinion. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for Marketplace Tech Bytes, our week in review. Jesus Alvarado produced this episode, and I'm Megan McCarty-Carino.
This is APM.